AMD seem to have sprung a little bit of a leak today, as the first performance benchmarks for the Radeon RX 460 graphics cards have leaked out. Now, these particular performance benchmarks were posted by Pure PC. They were very swiftly removed, but luckily video cards were on the case and were lucky enough to grab some screen grabs before the benchmark charts were actually taken down. Now, before I get into the benchmarks for some of the results shown, I just do want to quickly discuss what GPU they were actually testing. And it was a factory overclocked and custom model. It was the Gigabyte Radeon RX 480 2GB GDDR5, as you'd expect. However, it did utilise the WindForce 2 times cooler for superior cooling and a better PCB to deliver stable and clean current to the GPU. Now, Pure PC did benchmark the card at both stock and overclock speeds. Now, do note that the chip at stock stays with the same core configuration and clock speeds of 1.1 to 1.2 GHz, that's base and boost, while overclock benchmarks were performed with clock speeds of 1285 MHz core boost and 7.2 GHz memory clock. So with that out of the way, let's talk performance, shall we? Now, I did test numerous games, and I'm not going to go through them all because I'll be here till Christmas, but I want to discuss the key ones, so the most performance hogging ones, so you get an idea of how this measures up to the sort of most recent games and very power hungry games, that sort of thing. And the first thing on our list today is Crysis 3. So, as you can see on the chart on screen, it is being compared against some pretty nice cards here for some interesting comparisons, but the 460 gigabyte, about 29 frames per second standard, and then 33.1 for the overclock with the Crysis 3. Next on our list is Doom, and of course this has been quite the hot topic, as of course with Vulkan and everything like that, and they did use Vulkan for this particular test, and sadly for this one it's right at the bottom of our charts at 23 frames per second base and 24.4 at the overclock. Next up on our list is going to be the legendary Fallout 4. And it fared a little better here, 30 frames per second on the base clock with 31.3 on the slight overclock there for you. Now, next up we're going to be dealing with two of the most power hungry games in the market at the moment. We have, first of all, GTA 5, which saw 27 frames on the base and 39.2 on the overclock, so not too bad performance on the overclock there for GTA 5. However, next up we have The Witcher 3. And that was a bit more disappointing at 23 frames on the base and 27.8 on the overclock there for you. Now, on all of these screens you will see, of course, the specs that they used on, not the specs, sorry, the graphics settings. Obviously, if you're thinking of getting this card or thinking of recommending this card to someone for, low barrier to entry cost-wise, then obviously do keep in mind that they can turn the settings down, that sort of thing. So, next one on the chopping block is Rise of the Tomb Raider, and it actually fared a little bit better than you'd expect here. For the base clock, you got about 35 frames per second and 37 on the overclock, so not too shabby. Now, to wrap things up, I want to talk about the 3D mark figures for Firestrike Extreme. And you see results, the base of 2301 and overclocked at 2412. Now, the last thing I want to touch on here, one of the last things should I say, is the temperature at factory settings, and we're going to talk about Witcher 3 running versus idle here. And idle, you're looking at 40 degrees and then 65 for Witcher 3, and given the performance that you had there, that's actually not too bad. Overall, however, for high settings on most of these modern games, you are looking at fairly disappointing performance figures, to be quite honest. I mean, I know it's only $100, but still not that great, to be quite frank. I mean, obviously, yeah, you could turn it down, that sort of thing, but you could easily argue, look, spend a bit more and you can get yourself a 480, and you're looking at much, much better performance. So I think most people are going to be a little bit disappointed with these figures, with, not even reaching 30 frames per second on some of the current games on the highest settings. Now, obviously, this isn't supposed to be like, oh my god, the power GPU that the 480 is. This is the 460 we're talking about here, the sort of weakest one in that lineup, and if you're going to market this towards esports, yeah, these aren't esports games that I'm talking about, but you still want solid performance if you're going to be like attracting esports gamers or people who want to get into esports. So yes, it's $100, but I'm still a little bit disappointed myself, and the feeling for most having seen or heard these performance figures are probably going to feel the same. Now, as I said, I haven't discussed all of the figures here because I'd literally be here till Christmas if I did, but I will link the video cards link in the description below this video, and you can see all of the stuff there as well as what I've already covered and what I've missed out. But I feel like I've shown you enough to give you an idea as to the performance for the 460, at least this variation of it. And well, feel free to disagree with me, but they're a little bit disappointing. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.